Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak them out.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is about to be released in theaters, so we wanted to give you a refresher on the previous installment, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as well as a little bit of background on the film's antagonist, Spider-Man 2099, why he's forming the multiversal group of spider people, and how he could be connected to Kang the Conqueror.
Say what?
So, 2018 was arguably the greatest year for comic book movies ever. Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Black Panther, I could go on, but arguably the best film of the year was Sony's animated Spider-Man film, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they were doing the multiverse before the multiverse got cool.
Right? So, Into the Spider-Verse follows Miles Morales as Spider-Man, a young teen from Brooklyn, New York who's dealing with your typical teenage issues. The main one being him trying to find out who he's supposed to be. Little does he know that his world is about to get a lot bigger. Now, similar to Peter Parker, Miles is very smart and attends a high school for the gifted. He has very loving but sometimes overbearing parents who expect a lot from him. Oh, and his dad's a cop.
You gotta say I love you back.
Dad, are you serious?
Miles is also very passionate about art and graphic design. One night, he sneaks off to visit his uncle Aaron. Aaron Davis being a character we actually met a variant of in Spider-Man Homecoming. He was played by Donald Glover and even made a reference to Miles.
I don't want those weapons in this neighborhood. I got a nephew who live here.
So, after Uncle Aaron sees Miles' sketchbook, he takes Miles to a spot where they can turn it into graffiti art. They go into a subway station, and it's there that we see Miles get bitten by, you guessed it, a radioactive spider. After discovering that he has spider powers, Miles goes back to where he was bitten and finds the spider. The spider is glitching, just like we see the other spider people glitching when they're in a universe that isn't their own. The spider also has Alchemax 42 written on it. Now, Alchemax is a company that is helping the Kingpin build a super collider. This is a machine that will allow him to access parallel universes so that he can bring his wife and daughter back to life.
No!
So Miles investigates a little further and finds the super collider is hidden beneath the city, and it's there that he meets this universe's Peter Parker / Spider-Man.
You're like me.
So we see Spider-Man fight the Green Goblin, and in this version, he's like the ultimate comics version of Green Goblin, this really big guy who in the comics actually killed Spider-Man. So that event paved the way for Miles to become his universe's Spider-Man. So we see Spider-Man fight the Goblin, and then he gets caught in a test run of the Super Collider. Now the way the Super Collider works is by having a piece of the person's DNA placed within it in order to bring a variant of that person from another universe into their universe. Peter Parker's Spider-Man getting caught in the Collider results in different spider people from other universes being brought into this universe. All of them share a similarly altered DNA strand because they've all been bitten by a radioactive spider. So first up, we have Peter B. Parker.
My name is Peter B. Parker.
Peter B. Parker, B for Ben as in Uncle Ben. His Spider-Man is your standard Spider-Man. Bit by a radioactive spider, Uncle Ben died, saved the city a few times, marries MJ, you know the story. But this Peter has had a not so great future. His Aunt May died, he and MJ got divorced, and he's in a really dark, depressive, and unmotivated phase of his life. Then there's Gwen Stacy Spider-Gwen. In her universe, she became Spider-Woman, and her best friend Peter Parker actually became the Lizard.
Couldn't save my best friend, Peter Parker.
Now, Miles' relationship with Gwen anchors this story. Of course, she's a teenage crush of his, but we see the two of them grow and have a bond throughout the movie. At first, she doesn't think much of Miles because he can't control his powers and he also ruins her hair.
I like your haircut.
You don't get to like my haircut.
But as the film goes on, the other spider people don't really believe in Miles, but Gwen always does. But more on that in just a bit. Next, we have Penny Parker. Now, she doesn't actually have spider powers, but is instead telepathically connected to the radioactive spider that bit her. The spider that bit her now lives inside a giant robot spider that her dad built, and together they pilot this giant robot spider to fight crime.
This could literally not get any weirder.
It can get weirder.
Yes, believe me, it can. Peter Parker, aka Spider-Ham, has got to be the strangest Spider-Man we meet in the movie.
Wait, he's a pig that was bitten by a radioactive spider?
He might actually be a spider that was bitten by a radioactive pig, although that's not how it is in the comic. But hey, look, radioactiveness plus spider DNA, it's all that counts. Plus, he's basically a variant of Peter Parker, so that's gotta count for something.
Wow, a pig Spider-Man. Maybe I too can be a Spider-Man one day.
Buddy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just gonna go to the basement and look for radioactive spiders.
Alright, you do that. So, I saved the most badass for last. Spider-Man Noir, voiced by the man himself, Nicolas Cage.
Wherever I go, the wind follows. And the wind, it smells like rain.
Okay, so after the original Spider-Man from the Miles universe gets caught in the Super Collider, it creates a huge explosion and Peter takes a nasty fall. When Miles finds him, Peter makes him promise that he'll complete his mission and see to it that the Super Collider is destroyed, because if he doesn't, it could destroy the entire city. And then we see Spider-Man die for the second time in 2018. First in Avengers Infinity War, and then again at the hands of the Kingpin. So the first variant of Spider-Man that Miles meets is Peter B. Parker, the broken Spider-Man. Miles' need for a mentor is really what saves Peter B. Parker. While teaching Miles how to be Spider-Man, he finds his old self and becomes the Spider-Man that he used to be. And along the way, Miles teaches him a thing or two as well.
I love you. I am so proud of you. Do I want kids?
It's your classic retired mentor teaches the new blood how to be a hero, and in the process lets go of their demons and rediscovers themselves. Is this trope overused? Maybe. Do I still love it? You betcha.
It works every time.
So, as the heroes embark on their journey to stop the Kingpin, we meet some of the other classic Spidey villains, but not in their classic forms. We meet Olivia Octavius.
Can I assume that your friends call you Doc Ock?
My friends actually call me Liv. My enemies call me Doc Ock.
We also meet this really interesting version of Mac Gargan's Scorpion.
What just estas arañitas?
Let me guess. You're Scorpion?
Now, speaking of villains, like I mentioned earlier, we've got the Prowler, and Miles discovers that this baddie is actually his Uncle Aaron.
You know me, sir. I don't ever quit.
Then, in typical Spider-Man fashion, his uncle dies. When Aaron refuses to kill his nephew, Kingpin shoots him and then tries to shoot Miles, but Peter B. stops him. Miles then takes Aaron's body and swings away. We get an emotional scene between Miles and Aaron. Now, as Aaron is slipping away, he tells Miles that he's sorry and encourages him to continue his path of a hero.
You're on your way. Just keep going.
Now, what's important to keep in mind is that while this film is a big multiversal adventure film filled with lots of spider people, at its heart, it is an origin film for Miles Morales. His experiences in this film not only show him how to be Spider-Man, but how to be his true self. Like I said off the top, it is a film about self-discovery. Now, part of that self-discovery is Miles learning to believe in himself. There is a moment in the film where all the spider people are going to go shut down the Super Collider and fight the Kingpin, but Miles is not going to go along with them because he has no control over his powers, and they think he would be a liability. However, Miles realizes that he doesn't have to live up to the legend of his universe as Spider-Man. I mean, look, the Spider-Man in this universe was beloved by everybody. There was a giant public memorial for him. He even has like a cool spider cave underneath his Aunt May's backyard, and Aunt May is even in on this, helping him fight crime. That is a lot to live up to, but Miles realizes, no, I don't have to be that Spider-Man. I just have to be my own Spider-Man. So he makes his own suit with a graffiti tag for a spider symbol and then joins the other guys. You see, all of these different spider people are expressing their best traits, their commitment to the belief that with great power comes great responsibility. This movie, perhaps more than any other Spidey film, shows what it truly means to be Spider-Man.
Or a spider dog.
Or a spider dog, right. The film ends with all the spider people successfully defeating Kingpin and destroying the Super Collider. And we see our spider friends say goodbye for what they think will be the final time. But then we cut to the post-credits scene. In this scene, we meet Miguel O'Hara's Spider-Man 2099, arguably the second or third most popular Spider-Man of all time, after only the OG Peter Parker and, of course, Miles Morales. Spider-Man 2099 lives in the year, you guessed it, 2099. He's basically the Spider-Man equivalent of Batman Beyond, except Spider-Man 2099 actually came out a few years earlier. In the comics, Miguel O'Hara is a geneticist who inadvertently gives himself spider powers, and fun fact for you, he actually worked at Alchemax, the same company behind Kingpin Super Collider. In the post-credit scene, we see Miguel O'Hara putting on a bracelet to help him travel the multiverse, the same bracelets that we see Gwen wearing in the trailer for Across the Spider-Verse. But even prior to this, we see that Miguel has been monitoring the events taking place throughout the film. We hear Miguel's AI assistant, Lila, report to Miguel that the multiverse didn't collapse, so I guess that means that he's had a way of monitoring the multiverse, not just traveling it until now. And then we hear Miguel say,
Let's start at the beginning, one last time.
Miguel travels to the 1960 Spider-Man animated series.
I'm Spider-Man. I need you to come with me.
They recreate the iconic Spider-Man pointing meme like we've seen recreated again in No Way Home, as well as the trailers for Across the Spider-Verse.
Stations, stop Spider-Man!
We hear Miguel say to Spider-Man 67 that he needs him to come with him. Now this tells me that we are witnessing Miguel O'Hara begin his mission of building the team of spider people that we'll meet in Across the Spider-Verse. But the question remains, why? Why is Miguel wanting to bring together all the spider people from across the multiverse? Well, I think it could be similar to the mission of the Council of Kangs. In Miguel O'Hara's observation of the multiverse, he may have come to the same conclusion as these Kangs. The Kang in Quantumania, as well as He Who Remains in the Loki series, both say that the multiverse was on the verge of dying and that it needs to be saved.
I saw the multiverse, and it was dying.
And the Council of Kangs from the post-credit scene of Quantumania are also fearful that the Avengers' awareness of the multiverse could destroy everything.
They're beginning to touch the multiverse. And if we let them, they will take everything we built.
And with the Sony Spiderverse film sharing a multiverse with the MCU multiverse saga, we did a video on that by the way, check it out. I think that it's likely that Miguel has seen the same signs of the end of all reality that the Kangs are seeing. So it makes sense that Miguel O'Hara would also want a council of spider people to help him prevent the Spider-Verse specifically from collapsing. Maybe he's even got a bit of a mob boss deal with the Kangs, something along the lines of you scratch my back and I won't conquer your universe. Maybe that's the reason why we see Miguel so upset about the events of No Way Home.
Don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 1999-99.
That's because Tom Holland's Spider-Man has inadvertently violated a deal that O'Hara has with the Council of Kangs to not touch any of the Spider-Verses. Or Miguel could be aware of multiversal travel causing incursions.
An incursion occurs when the boundary between two universes erodes and they collide, destroying one or both entirely.
Or Miguel may simply hold the same macro views as the Kangs after observing the near infinite amount of universes that exist, and how the demise of a few universes could save the overwhelming majority. It's possible that Miguel has begun to view the multiverse as a numbers game. We've heard Kangs say,
They burn the broken world and they make a new one.
Which is very similar to what Miguel says here.
You have a choice between saving one person and saving every world.
And then Miles, of course, responds in typical Spider-Man fashion.
I can do both!
And while Miguel is the antagonist of Across the Spider-Verse, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a villain. He very likely has his own heroic reasoning for doing what he does, in order to save the most people. After all, the best villains are the ones who don't think they're in the wrong. So, there's a recap of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as well as some theories on what Spider-Man 2099 could be up to with his formation of a council of spider people, as well as the fate of the multiverse. But let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Anything I left out that we should have left in, let me know in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.